The envelope sits in my mailbox like a white flag of surrender, except no one's surrendering but me. I stare at the perfect calligraphy of my own handwriting, the names of my parents, Richard and Eleanor Morgan, inscribed with hopeful precision just days ago. Now the envelope bears a new mark. Return to sender. In my father's blocky, authoritative penmanship. No explanation, no apology. Just rejection delivered in 5 syllables of black ink. My throat tightens. The April breeze lifts my hair as I stand frozen at the end of my driveway, clutching the unopened wedding invitation. Cars pass. A neighbor waves. I can't move. My phone vibrates in my pocket. I fumble for it, nearly dropping the envelope. Mom. A coincidence that feels too precise to be accidental. I answer with a steadiness I don't feel. Hi, Mom. Allison. Her voice carries that familiar tone-crisp disapproval wrapped in artificial sweetness. I'm glad I caught you. I wait, fingers pressing into the thick cardstock of the returned invitation. About this wedding invitation we received, she continues. Your father and I need to decline. We're too busy that weekend for this event of yours. Haven't you embarrassed us enough? The world narrows to a pinpoint. Blood rushes in my ears. Embarrassed you? My voice emerges softer than intended. The short engagement. This rush to marry a man you barely know. That green dress you mentioned instead of white. It's all so like you, Allison. Like me. The words hang between usher familiar code for disappointing. Daniel and I have been together for 3 years, Mom. And working together too. It looks desperate, honestly. People talk. I close my eyes, remember Daniel's face when I addressed this very invitation. We sat at our dining room table 2 weeks ago, the stack of cream envelopes before us. His fingers brushed mine as I picked up my parents' invitation. Are you sure they deserve to be there? He asked, his voice gentle but eyes serious. I nodded, throat tight with hope. It's my wedding day, maybe they'll finally see me. Now I stand with the physical proof that they'd rather not. I'm sorry you feel that way, I manage. My shoulders straighten as something shifts inside me, a quiet click of resolve. The invitation stands if you change your mind. We won't. Her words slice clean. Goodbye, Allison. The line goes dead. I stand in my driveway, 33 years old, and still somehow expecting my parents to act like parents. I remember my sister Rebecca's wedding 4 years ago. The lavish celebration at the family estate. My father's toast that brought tears to every eye. My mother fussing over every detail of Rebecca's dress. That same weekend, I'd closed my first major investment deal, turning a failing property into a profitable acquisition. I mentioned it once at dinner. My father changed the subject. My mother looked through me. The memory fuels my steps as I walk back to my house, not with slumped shoulders, but with purpose. 3 days later, I sit in my office at Bennett Financial, sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows that overlook Manhattan. Financial documents cover my desk, the Reynolds acquisition, a portfolio of mortgages from a small but strategic lender. These are the final properties in the Parkland Mortgage Holdings package, my assistant says, placing another folder on my desk. I flip through address after address, scanning terms, values, conditions. A familiar street name catches my eye. I stop, pulse quickening. The Morgan estate, my childhood home, my parents' mortgage. I stare at the document, at the numbers that represent the foundation of my father's pride. The legal claim to the house where I was raised but never belonged, the home I was now positioned to control. Daniel appears in my doorway, his tall frame silhouetted against the light. Find something interesting, he asks, noticing my expression. I look up, my decision already forming, just reviewing the final acquisitions. His eyes perceptive, kind study my face. He knows me too well to miss the calculation happening behind my calm exterior. Allison, schedule the wedding as planned. I tell my assistant without breaking eye contact with Daniel. Don't change a thing. My assistant nods and slips away, leaving us alone. Your parents? Daniel asks. They've made their position clear. I close the folder deliberately. So have I. Later that day, the storage boxes mock me from every corner of what was once my childhood bedroom. School memorabilia, old clothes. Things deemed not important enough to display but too inconvenient to discard entirely. Like me. I came to collect the last of my belongings using the key I never returned. The house sits empty, my parents at some charity function in the city. A photo album tumbles from a half-open box. I kneel to pick it up, dust coating my fingers. The Morgan family memories embossed in gold on leather binding. I flip it open. Page after page of family portraits where I stand at the edge, slightly apart. Then my breath catches a holiday photo with a strange gap where I should be. The image crudely altered, my presence literally cut away. Beneath the album lies a bundle of letters, yellowed with age. My father's handwriting on envelopes addressed to distant relatives. I shouldn't read them, I do. Rebecca is thriving at school. William has shown remarkable aptitude. Allison continues to be a challenge. Sometimes I wonder if she's really our daughter at all. The words blur as tears threaten. I blink them back, refusing to cry in this house again. I catch my reflection in the dusty mirror hanging on the wall, the only item they left in this room that bears no evidence of my existence. My eyes, my father's hazel. My chin, my mother's determined angle. This ends now, I whisper to my reflection. And for the first time in my life, I believe it. The next day, the Williams call comes at 7:15 in the morning, always his time, never mine. I balance my phone against my ear while pouring coffee, the rich aroma filling my kitchen as dawn breaks over Manhattan. Sis. His voice holds that particular blend of formality and condescension he reserves just for me. Heard about the wedding, tough break with mom and dad. I set my mug down carefully on the marble counter. Good morning to you too, William. Just wanted to check in. Make sure you're holding up okay. A practiced pause follows the kind that's meant to convey concern, but never quite manages it. Through the window, a delivery truck idles on the street below, its hazard lights pulsing in steady rhythm. I'm fine, I say, the words automatic after 33 years of Morgan family interactions. The wedding plans continue. Bold choice. His chuckle grates against my ear. Though I suppose that's your specialty, always swimming upstream. I close my eyes, counting silently to 3. Did you need something specific, William? Just touching base. Family looking out for family. The irony almost makes me laugh. Almost. Shame about the timing, he continues, voice too casual. Mom and Dad are hosting a family gathering that weekend instead. Nothing fancy, just the usual crowd at the estate. Aunt Margaret, Uncle James, cousins, you know. My coffee grows cold as his words register. I set the mug down with deliberate care, though no one is watching. A family gathering, I repeat. The same weekend as my wedding. A beat of silence. Oh, William's voice shifts, realizing his mistake. Did they not mention that? Probably slipped their minds with everything going on. The lie hangs between us, transparent as glass. Right, I say. Things slip. After hanging up, I stand motionless in my kitchen. The morning sun catches the diamond on my left hand, scattering light across the walls. 3 hours later, I've compiled the evidence. Social media posts from cousins discussing travel arrangements to Greenwich for the Morgan summer reunion. Text messages from a former neighbor who saw the party rental trucks delivering to the estate. The catering order confirmed 6 days after my wedding invitation arrived at their home. Daniel finds me at our dining table, laptop open, documents spread in neat piles. You didn't come to bed last night, he says, resting his hands on my shoulders. I lean back against him, bones aching with fatigue. They're hosting a family event, the same day as our wedding. They planned it after they got our invitation. His fingers tighten slightly, then relax. I feel the careful control in his touch. Your brother called? Couldn't resist letting me know. I gestured toward the screen. I did some digging. Daniel pulls out the chair beside me, scanning the evidence I've gathered. His expression remains neutral, but I catch the slight tightening around his eyes, the tell he gets when negotiating difficult contracts. There's more, I say, sliding a printed email toward him. From my father to his golf buddies. The message is brief, businesslike, regarding questions about my daughter's upcoming marriage to Daniel Bennett. While Bennett Financial appears sound, I cannot speak to the personal choices of a daughter who has always prioritized ambition over family values. Eleanor and I have concerns about the match, but will keep them private out of respect. Daniel reads it twice, his jaw muscles working beneath smooth skin. Ambition over family values, he repeats, voice flat. And this one's from my mother. I push forward another print-outed text message thread with her book club friends. Poor Allison always did chase the wrong things. Daniel seems accomplished enough, but between us, I worry she's more interested in his position than his person. They work together, you know. Started dating right after she joined his company. Draw your own conclusions. Daniel's fingers curl into a fist, then deliberately relax. Gold digger. I translate unnecessarily. That's the narrative they're spinning. Allison. No. I close the laptop with a decisive click. I've spent my entire life trying to earn their approval. Trying to be good enough. I'm done. The silence that follows feels different lighter somehow, as if naming the truth has changed the gravity in the room. Later that afternoon, I meet Sarah at our favorite cafe near Central Park. 25 years of friendship means she knows the Morgan family dynamics better than anyone outside them. They're really not coming? She asks, stirring her tea. They're hosting a competing event instead. My voice sounds steadier than I expected. Sarah's face hardens. That's not just absence, that's sabotage. A busker plays saxophone somewhere nearby, the notes drifting through open windows. I watch pedestrians hurry past, lives in motion. You don't seem surprised, Sarah observes. I'm not. The realization settles like a stone. I think I've always known who they are. I just kept hoping they'd become someone else. Sarah reaches across the table, her hand covering mine. The guest list is done. The venue is perfect. You and Daniel deserve this day. How do I explain their absence to everyone? The question that's been haunting me finally emerges. With dignity, Sarah says simply. The truth without bitterness. My family had a prior commitment. Anyone who knows you will understand what that really means. That night, Daniel sits beside me on our balcony, city lights creating a private constellation around us. He places a small velvet box in my lap. I was saving this for the wedding morning, he says, but I think you need it now. Inside rests a silver locket, elegant in its simplicity. When I open it, I find a photograph of us from our first vacation together, heads bent close, laughing at something now forgotten. Your real family starts here, Daniel says quietly. I close my fingers around the locket, cool metal warming against my skin. I feel like I'm mourning, I admit, voice barely audible above the city sounds below. But how can you mourn people who were never really there for you? Daniel doesn't answer. Instead, he wraps his arm around my shoulders as night settles over Manhattan, and I let myself lean into the presence of someone who chooses to stay. Next week, the Wall Street Journal's Society page stares back at me from my laptop screen. Power couple to Wednesday. Bennett Financial's Daniel Bennett and investment wunderkind Allison Morgan unite fortunes and lives. The headline alone would set my mother's teeth on edge for the publicity, but for the word wunderkind attached to my name instead of Williams. My phone buzzes. Sarah. Your wedding announcement is everywhere, she says without preamble. Eleanor must be having kittens. Good. The word comes out sharper than intended. That's not all. Sarah's voice drops to a conspiratorial whisper. Rebecca called me this morning asking if I knew why you were making such a spectacle of yourself. Apparently, Richard and Eleanor are telling everyone you've eloped to avoid family scrutiny. The familiar acid burn of betrayal rises in my throat. They're rewriting history before it even happens. There's more. William's wife let slip that your father made calls to several board members at Bennett Financial. My hand tightens around the phone. Saying what? That you've been emotionally unstable since your divorce. That your relationship with Daniel is problematic. The words hit like individual blows. They're trying to sabotage my career now. One more thing, Sarah hesitates. There are rumors circulating about how you rose so quickly at Morgan Stanley. Ugly rumors. I close my eyes, unsurprised. Let me guess, I slept my way to the top. Your mother's bridge club is quite invested in the theory. After we hang up, I stand at my office window, watching Manhattan shimmer in the April sunshine. The city that nearly broke me. The city where I rebuilt myself. 7 years ago, I stood in a cramped studio apartment with divorce papers in hand and $137 in my checking account. Mark had emptied our joint accounts before disappearing to Vegas. My credit score was in ruins. When I called home, my father answered with 4 cutting words. "We told you so." That night, I applied for 14 finance positions, slept 3 hours, then interviewed for 3 of them wearing the only suit I hadn't sold to pay rent. The Morgan Stanley interviewer asked why I had a gap in my resume. I told the truth. He hired me the next day. For 3 years, I arrived at 5 a.m. and left after 10 p.m. I lived on protein bars and coffee. While colleagues went to happy hours, I studied for additional certifications. While they took vacations, I volunteered for holiday shifts. I rented a room in a basement apartment in Queens and banked every bonus. Then came the Westfield acquisition, the deal nobody wanted because the properties seemed worthless. I spent weeks analyzing weather patterns, transportation developments, and demographic shifts. I identified 3 properties that would quadruple in value within 18 months. My supervisor laughed. I persisted. He relented. Those properties financed my first apartment in Manhattan. The memory straightens my spine as I gather my purse. I have a fitting appointment for my wedding dress, emerald green silk that would make Eleanor Morgan's society friends whisper behind their hands. "Allison?" The voice catches me off guard as I exit the boutique on Madison Avenue an hour later. My mother stands on the sidewalk, Hermes shopping bag dangling from one wrist, surprise evident in her widened eyes. "Mother." The word falls between us, neutral and cold. She recovers quickly, glancing at the store behind me, Bergdorf's bridal salon, where wedding dresses start at 5 figures. Her gaze travels over my Louboutin heels, the Cartier watch Daniel gave me for Christmas, the subtle diamond studs in my ears. "What are you doing here?" The question contains layers of meaning. Final fitting for my wedding dress. I meet her eyes steadily. "Green, I hear." Her nose wrinkles slightly. "How unconventional." "Yes." She steps closer, lowering her voice. "Darling, these hasty decisions reflect poorly on the family. This store," she waves dismissively at Bergdorf's, "these people." "You'll never truly fit in these circles, dear." The comment should sting. Once it would have. Instead, I feel a curious detachment, as if observing our interaction from above. "I don't fit in, Mother. I own the building this shop is in." Her perfect composure slips. "You what?" "Bennett Financial acquired the property last year. Excellent investment. The rental income is quite impressive." She blinks rapidly. For once in my life, Eleanor Morgan has no ready response. "Enjoy your shopping," I say, stepping past her toward my waiting car. "The spring collection is particularly lovely this year." The next week, the pre-wedding celebration at Daniel's penthouse feels more like family than any Morgan gathering I've attended. Colleagues from my early days at Morgan Stanley toast my success. Sarah has assembled photos of our 30-year friendship, deliberately excluding any with my family. Daniel's team has created a financial timeline of my career achievements that makes even me pause in surprise. To the woman who built herself when others tried to tear her down, Daniel says, raising his glass. The room erupts in applause. Later, after the guests have gone, Daniel leads me to his home office. A folder sits on his desk, unmarked but somehow significant in its placement. "What's this?" I ask. "The final paperwork on the Parkland Mortgage Holdings acquisition." My heart stutters. My parents' mortgage. And the estate. All of it. He opens the folder. "The board approved the purchase this afternoon." I stare at the documents, at the signatures required on the final line. My signature. With it, I would control not just my parents' mortgage, but the family estate, the physical embodiment of their power and status. "Is this revenge or justice?" I whisper. Daniel doesn't touch me, doesn't influence, simply stands beside me, a warm, solid presence in the quiet room. "It's business," he says finally. "The rest is up to you." I think of the photo album with my image cut out, the letters diminishing my existence, the calls to Daniel's board, the rumors about my professional achievements. I pick up the pen. On the wedding day, Manhattan glitters beneath us like scattered diamonds on black velvet. The rooftop garden of the Meridian transforms into our wedding sanctuary, white roses and silver candlelight creating constellations against the twilight sky. I stand near the edge in my emerald green gown, fabric catching the breeze from 60 stories up. Daniel's eyes haven't left me since I appeared at the makeshift aisle formed by our 200 guests. "You look absolutely radiant," whispers Caroline, my executive assistant, adjusting my train. "Half the room can't stop staring." "Only half?" I laugh, the sound coming easier than I expected on this day. The champagne flows. Manhattan's financial elite mingle with publishing magnates and real estate developers' connections cultivated through years of shrewd business dealings, not inherited privilege. These people know me through my work, not my family name. I spot Senator Thompson laughing with his wife, the Whittingtons from Coastal Trust, and the Prestons from the museum board, all pillars of my parents' social circle, all accepting my invitation while my own blood family declined. Daniel materializes at my side, champagne flute in hand. "Mrs. Bennet," he says, eyes crinkling at the corners. "Not official for another hour," I remind him, accepting the glass. "Semantics." He nods toward the entrance. "Don't look now, but we have unexpected guests." I turn despite his warning. The world slows to a crawl. My father stands at the entrance in his Brooks Brothers suit, mother clutching his arm in pale blue Chanel. Behind them, William shifts from foot to foot, Rebecca hovering uncertainly beside him. Their faces display identical expressions of calculated casualness, as if their appearance at my wedding isn't the surprise of the decade. "Well," I breathe, "this should be interesting." Daniel's hand finds the small of my back. "Want me to have security escort them out?" I consider it. One word from me and they'd disappear. The power in that realization steadies me. "No," I decide. "Let them stay. It's almost time for your speech anyway." The next hour unfolds like a choreographed dance. My parents work the room, introducing themselves as Allison's family, with practiced warmth that never reached their eyes during my childhood. They insert themselves into conversations with frightening efficiency. Mother compliments my dress with poisoned sweetness. "Green is such a brave choice, darling." The photographer approaches for family photos, and they position themselves front and center as if they'd been invited, as if they belong. Father claps Daniel on the shoulder like they're old friends. "Quite an affair you've put together," he booms. Perhaps a bit excessive for such a small family, but impressive nonetheless. William corners Daniel's business partners, dropping hints about investment opportunities. I watch from across the room as he passes out business cards with the desperation of a drowning man reaching for driftwood. Mother finds me at the bar. "Allison, you might have warned us about the date. We had to rearrange several commitments." "Funny, considering you told me you were too busy to attend," I reply, voice steady. She waves her hand dismissively. "A misunderstanding. Your father and I would never miss our daughter's wedding." The lie hangs between us, as substantial as the Manhattan skyline. The evening progresses to dinner beneath the stars. Daniel rises for his toast, commanding the room with effortless authority. He speaks of love and partnership, of building something meaningful together. Then his voice shifts subtly. "I want to acknowledge some special guests tonight," he says, glass raised. "Many of you know that Bennett Financial has recently completed acquisition of Parkland Mortgage Holdings." My father's fork freezes halfway to his mouth. "This represents not just a business milestone for us." Daniel continues smoothly, but a personal one. "Expanding our portfolio to include such an established family of properties feels particularly fitting on the day Allison and I join our own families." The whispers start immediately. Financial insiders catch the significance instantly. Parkland holds the mortgages for half of Connecticut's most exclusive properties, including the Morgan family estate. Father's face drains of color. Mother's smile hardens to porcelain. William fumbles for his phone, fingers trembling as he dials his financial advisor. "To new beginnings," Daniel concludes, raising his glass higher. The room echoes with new beginnings. But my parents remain silent, champagne untouched. Father recovers first, pushing back his chair with forced casualness. He intercepts Daniel near the dessert table, one hand gripping my husband's elbow. "We should talk, man to man," I hear him say, voice tight despite the jovial facade. Mother materializes beside me, compliments suddenly flowing like champagne. "The flowers are exquisite, darling, and you've always had such a head for business." We've told everyone how proud we are of your career. Across the room, the Prestons and Whittingtons drift away from my parents' assigned table, suddenly remembering appointments elsewhere. The power shift ripples through the crowd like wind across water. William's voice carries from the terrace, his phone conversation increasingly frantic. What do you mean we can't liquidate immediately? This is an emergency. I stand at the center of it all, watching their perfectly constructed world begin to fracture. The satisfaction I expected feels hollow, replaced by something cleaner, not revenge, but justice. Not destruction, but balance restored. Daniel returns to my side, sliding his arm around my waist. Your father wants to discuss business over brunch tomorrow. I lean into his embrace. I bet he does. The night air carries the scent of roses and possibility. The city lights beneath us mirror the stars above. For the first time in my life, I stand exactly where I belong. The next morning, at home, the text message arrives before my coffee cools. We should talk, darling. Brunch today at the club? Your father and I have always believed in you. I stare at my mother's words, so carefully crafted to sound supportive, so utterly false. Daniel glances over my shoulder, his hand warm against my back. They're trying to save face, he says. Or their house. I set my phone down beside my untouched breakfast. Through our apartment windows, Manhattan gleams in morning light. Our wedding was yesterday. My parents showed up uninvited, faces fixed in practiced smiles after they learned half their social circle would attend. I type a response. Bennett Financial, 2 p.m., conference room A. Daniel raises an eyebrow. You're sure? I've never been more certain of anything. Later that day, the Bennett Financial building stands 40 stories tall on Park Avenue, glass and steel reaching toward clouds. I arrive early, watching from my office as my parents' town car pulls to the curb. My father exits first, straightening his custom suit before extending his hand to my mother. They pause, gazing upward as if measuring the building against their expectations. My assistant knocks softly. They're in the lobby, Mrs. Bennett. Mrs. Bennett, the name still new on my lips. Have them escorted to conference room A, offer nothing but water. Your brother called. He'd like to join them. No, this meeting is by invitation only. I smooth my emerald silk blouse the same shade as my wedding dress and touch the locket at my throat, armor and talisman. When I enter the conference room 10 minutes later, my parents stand at the floor-to-ceiling windows, their backs straightened at the sound of the door. Quite the view, my father says, turning with the appraising eye of a man who collects properties like trophies. Allison, my mother steps forward, arms outstretched for an embrace I don't reciprocate. The wedding was unique. Thank you for accepting my invitation. I gesture to the table. Please, sit. Daniel enters with a portfolio under his arm. My father extends his hand, which Daniel shakes briefly before taking his place beside me. The glass table reflects our faces as we settle into silence. Your brother sends his regrets, my mother says, smoothing an invisible wrinkle from her skirt. I didn't invite William. My father leans forward. This family Cold War needs to end, Allison. We've been thinking there are opportunities we could explore together. Keep things in the family. The Morgan name still carries weight, my mother adds. We've told the Whitcombs and the Prestons how we helped fund your career. My laugh escapes before I can contain it. Did you specify which parts you funded? The parts where you diverted my college fund to William? Or when you told the Berkshire Group not to hire me because I was emotionally unstable? Color drains from my mother's face. That's ancient history. 3 years ago isn't ancient, Mother. Daniel taps a command on his tablet. The wall screen illuminates with my parents' mortgage contract. What is this? My father's voice sharpens. Bennett Financial recently acquired Parkland Mortgage Holdings. I let the words hang between us. Your mortgage was part of the package. My father's fingers dig into the armrests. You married him to get back at us? No, I meet his gaze steadily. I married Daniel because we share values you never taught me. Respect, honesty, unconditional support. Daniel slides the portfolio toward them. Inside lie documents I've collected for years, recordings of my father dismissing me to business associates, financial records showing the diverted college fund, family trust documents with my name deliberately excluded. My mother flips through them, tears welling. What do you want from us? Money? Public apology? The estate? Nothing. The word lands between us with perfect clarity. That's the point. I no longer need anything from you. My father's face reddens. This is blackmail. This is business. I tap the screen, advancing to new mortgage terms. These are the conditions moving forward. Fair market rate, no special treatment. The papers require your signature by Friday. And if we refuse? His voice carries no real threat, just the hollow echo of a man realizing the power has shifted. Then standard foreclosure proceedings begin next month. My mother's hand trembles as she reaches for her water glass. You can't mean to take our home. I don't want your house. I want your attention. I stand, placing both palms on the cool glass surface. Any future relationship between us requires acknowledgement of your behavior. Public and private. No more pretending I was too difficult or too sensitive. No more family narratives where I'm conveniently erased. My father stares at me, really seeing me perhaps for the first time. His mouth opens, closes, opens again. When did you become so calculated? I've always been this person. You just never bothered to notice. I have another meeting. The documents are yours to review. My assistant will show you out. At the door, my mother turns. Will you ever forgive us? The question catches me off guard. I consider the weight of decades, of birthdays forgotten and achievements dismissed, of family photos where I stand slightly apart. Forgiveness isn't permission to continue hurting me, I say finally. It's recognition that I won't let the hurt define me anymore. The door closes behind them. A minute later, Daniel's hand finds mine. You okay? I nod, surprised to find it's true. The anger that fueled me for so long has burned down to something steadier, more controlled, not gone transformed. They'll sign, I say. I know. Daniel's thumb traces circles on my palm. What happens after? I look out at the city spread before us, buildings catching sunlight like possibilities. I start living on my terms, not theirs. The golden afternoon sun warms my face as I adjust the welcome banner. Bennett Foundation for Family Reconciliation stretches across our backyard in elegant script. 1 year since the wedding, and here we stand not in bitterness, but in purpose. The caterer's just arrived, Daniel says, his hand finding the small of my back. You ready for this? I nod, surveying our modest garden transformed into an event space. No crystal chandeliers or imported flowers like my parents would have demanded. Just honest warmth and intention. Nervous? He asks. Surprisingly, no. And it's true. The constant knot that once lived between my shoulder blades has finally unraveled. The first guests arrive, young adults with wary eyes and cautious smiles. I recognize that look. I wore it for 33 years. Miss Bennett? A young woman approaches, clutching a folder. Your mentorship program changed my life. After my parents disowned me for studying art instead of law, I didn't know how to move forward. Her words land softly. A year ago, they would have punctured me with shared pain. Now, they fuel my resolve. The afternoon unfolds with stories of broken family bonds and rebuilding. I share financial strategies, but more importantly, tools for emotional independence. When I mention my own journey, nobody flinches with pity. They lean forward with recognition. Later, Daniel finds me refilling water glasses. Mail came, he murmurs, slipping an envelope into my hand. I recognize my mother's handwriting instantly. Unlike my wedding invitation, this envelope bears no rejection stamp. I tuck it into my pocket for later. That night, after guests have gone, I sit on our bedroom floor and open the letter. Allison. Words feel insufficient after years of silence. Your father and I have begun family therapy. The therapist asked why we kept your childhood photos in storage boxes while displaying your siblings' achievements. I had no answer that didn't reveal my own failings. I watched your foundation launch online. You've become everything we never taught you to be. If you're willing, perhaps coffee someday. Mom? No elaborate excuses, no manipulation, just simple acknowledgement and a small opening. Daniel finds me still sitting there, letter in hand. You okay? He asks, joining me on the floor. Better than okay. I fold the letter carefully. They're in therapy. He raises an eyebrow. Do you believe it? Maybe. Maybe not. I rise, pulling him up with me. But it doesn't matter like it used to. 2 weeks later, I stand before 300 women at the Financial Empowerment Conference. The spotlight feels warm as I share my journey from exclusion to independence. Success isn't just about numbers, I tell them. It's about creating a life where external validation becomes unnecessary. Afterward, a woman waits until the crowd thins. My family thinks I'm throwing my life away on a hobby business, she confesses. They won't even discuss it at family gatherings. I recognize her pain, that desperate hunger for approval that can never be satisfied. Your worth isn't determined by those who failed to see it, I tell her, the words rising from somewhere deep and healed. That evening, Daniel finds me on the rooftop garden of Bennett Financial. Manhattan glitters below as the sunset paints the sky in layers of amber and rose. Your mother called the office, he says, joining me at the railing. They'd like to meet next month. I breathe in the cooling air. What do you think? Will they ever truly change? He studies my face, searching for signs of the old pain. Maybe. I answer my own question with a serenity that once seemed impossible. But it doesn't matter anymore. I'm not living for their approval. I turn toward the vast open sky. The greatest revenge isn't proving them wrong, it's living so fully that their approval becomes irrelevant.